Good morning, YouTube. Reseller Mom here. Welcome to today's video. Today, I have the pleasure of interviewing my CPA, Julia, here, and pretty exciting to talk about all things finance. So I'm going to let Julia go ahead and introduce herself and go over kind of an overview of her company and what she has to offer. And then I've got some questions. But if anybody has questions, go ahead and write them down in the comments and we will get to them. So good morning, Julia. How are you?
Good morning. How are you? Very good. Okay, so good morning, everybody. My name is Julia Ibrahim. I am a CPA, a CIA, an advanced certified QuickBooks Pro Advisor, and Zero certified as well. I run an accounting and tax firm, All United Accounting and Tax. And we specialize in e-commerce. We help e-commerce sellers get their financials in order, understand their numbers, get the clarity into their financial situation with your business, and also help e-commerce sellers save the most money on taxes. My background is in government auditing, and I can represent clients all across the US when they have some issues with IRS, to just resolve those issues and get that taken care of for them as well. Our clients are typically can come from anywhere in the US as well as abroad. So that's the overview. Yep.
Excellent. I'm going to bring up just how people can find you really quick so that if people are looking for you, they kind of know where to go, maybe get some more information or check out stuff real quick. These links are all down below in the description. First, we have Julia's website here so you can get a good idea of what she offers, what services, how to contact her directly. Over on Facebook, she's got all her contact information again. So if you want to follow her on Facebook, you can go ahead and do that. And she's got all her links and credentials over here too, and her YouTube channel. So you can check out her YouTube videos. And then she's over on LinkedIn as well. So you can find her over there. So we've come up with a handful of questions, but again, if you guys have any questions, please go ahead and leave those and we will answer them live here on the show. The first question that I combed through kind of like I combed through a couple of Facebook boards on CPA questions and also a couple of Google searches and to get kind of the most popular questions out there. The first one I got here is, when is the right time to hire a CPA?
Great question. Thank you for asking. So actually, the right time to hire a CPA is the earliest you can do it, the better. So even if you're just planning to start your business, you haven't been selling yet, but you are planning to, it's a good idea to, even if you just reach out to for a consultation, to just get an idea what type of entity you need to form, and just get overall an idea of how you would structure your accounting in the future. Just get some insight into some intricacies of e-commerce, specifically licensing issues, any of that. So that's when you are about to begin. If you already started, if you already formed your entity, reach out to your CPA as soon as possible as well, because at that point, you may need to set up your accounting system to track your numbers correctly, or at least in the beginning, if you haven't been tracking it, maybe you've been tracking it on Excel spreadsheet, for example. You can get an idea of what system can be maybe better for your business, to get more clarity into your financials, and just overall get an idea, to how to continue with your business in a better way, right? To more profitable and growing your business and scaling. Mm-hmm.
So I have to say that before I met Julia, I was with just like a regular CPA And we had done our taxes by ourselves for years. I mean, it wasn't a big deal. We're we had just been doing it ourselves for a long time. And then I had found a CPA because I used to work with somebody who then worked at an accounting firm. So I just went with them. And when I interviewed them, I said, this is what I'm doing. And they kind of said, oh, yeah, we're very familiar with that. And it turned out that they weren't. So I went and I found another person who was close. And I thought, well, because they're so close, I'll be able to have a good connection with them. And again, when I was talking to them, I told them I'm doing e-commerce, and they're like, oh, yeah, we're very familiar with that. But when it came down to questions about like interstate sales tax questions, they had no clue. So then I found Julia, and I kind of want you to go over like what you specialize in with e-commerce platforms, because it is a huge difference from the other CPAs that are kind of more your standard business models. So if you could go over kind of what platforms you're really in depth familiar with, and some of the software or things that need to be done because of the complexity with e-commerce.
Absolutely. Okay, so since we specialize in e-commerce, we are familiar with all the platforms that e-commerce sellers are selling on. Of course, every platform is different. Every platform has its own complexities. But overall, once the e-commerce, once we are familiar with e-commerce platforms, it's a matter of recording the information correctly, and that's basically what the general CPAs are missing many times. So we specialize in Amazon, Shopify, eBay, Walmart, Mercari, Etsy, and also help people with when they sell on their own websites as well, through WooCommerce, Wix, and some less well-known platforms as well. So we can work with any of these platforms once we master, since we mastered all the platforms pretty much. It's now it comes almost similar from platform to platform. Yes, and many generalist CPAs, they unfortunately don't know how to deal with this data coming from those platforms. So Amazon, for example, has its own set of reports, its own set of tools that they can use to streamline the data, to bring over the data into the accounting system. Many CPAs just advise their clients to book their sales according to the payouts that they receive in the bank, which is incorrect. So you need to track your gross sales, for example. Also, inventory management. The CPAs or even just generalist accountants, they don't know. It's not always easy to deal with the inventory based businesses, right? So there are certain intricacies of the way you need to record your inventory versus cost of goods sold. So it's many of them make mistake of just booking all the purchases to cost of goods sold directly, and thus this way the financials are not actually accurate on a month-to-month basis. And these are some of the issues. We found a lot of issues when some clients come to us from other CPAs. Yeah, so that's pretty much yeah.
So I have to say, like I said, Julia is about my third CPA for business that I've come across, and the differences were really big. But one thing that I wanted to point out for the audience here, just in case if they are thinking about hiring somebody or whatnot, the two that I had beforehand pretty much only did my year-end taxes. And my problem with it was I was paying somebody, and then they had me do all the work. I needed to track all of my bookkeeping, all of my sales, all of stuff. And I was basically handing them a very detailed done report at the end of the year. And I'm going, well, all you're doing is taking the numbers that I researched for you and putting them into the into whatever TurboTax or whatever you're using. I know it wasn't TurboTax, but essentially. And at that point, I'm going, well, I already did all the numbers. And the difference with bringing Julie on board is she does all of my bookkeeping and tax stuff on a monthly basis. So, you're going over my books all the time and making sure things are categorized correctly. I'm doing things correctly. I get a profit and loss sheet every month. It's all up to the minute. So before, I would have this kind of year-end panic, like, oh my gosh, did I do everything correctly? Maybe I was filing things wrong, or just not categorizing things correctly. And it's been a huge difference in service that, of course, is a difference in price too. I know a lot of people don't want to, maybe it's hard to step up to that next level to bring on staff and seeing the value there. But we've been together for now over a year, and I definitely have seen the value of that monthly service, of having somebody that is always in your books and can point out anything that's incorrect or needs to be categorized a certain way, etc. So we've got JR has a question here. I want to make the move from sole proprietor to LLC soon. Would it be easier during the upcoming tax season or to wait until the new year to do this? Or will it make much of a difference if I switch now? That is an excellent question, similar to one of the ones that I have over here. So we will just go ahead and answer that now.
Absolutely. So you can definitely switch over to the LLC as soon as you'd like. Since if you're switching from sole proprietor to LLC, I assume your LLC will be a single member LLC. If you're a single member LLC, for tax purposes, it's going to be the same thing. So you would just switch over. You can switch over at any time during the year. The sooner, actually, the better, because LLC does protect you from liability and offers a few other benefits. But if you are switching into, let's say, you wanted to convert your business to multi-member LLC, then I would suggest waiting until end of the year. It could be just easier for you tax-wise to transition, because when you are multi-member LLC, you are actually, by default, you would be considered a partnership, and that's a separate tax return that you would need to file. So if my understanding is correct, if you're a single member LLC, then you can just do the switch anytime. It wouldn't affect your tax for tax purposes.
Yeah. All right. The next question I have up here is, let's see here. This one's kind of tied. A good question for everybody. Let me get rid of this. Oh, JR has a follow-up. We'll do that one first. Does filing an S corp make a difference in this decision? Does filing as an S corp make a difference?
Yes, because if you're an S corp, you first of all, you have to, if you filed already for an S corp election, it should be effective as of this year, for example. Then you would be filing a separate tax return already as an S corp. So it wouldn't matter whether you switch over to LLC or to any other structure. But if you're already an S corporation, that's basically the tax structure that IRS would consider you to be, and you would have to file the S corporation tax return. And the switch to S corporation is also much easier beginning of the year. And typically that's how you would allow, the IRS would allow you to switch. They wouldn't allow you to switch mid-year to S corporation anyway, unless you're just started and you are still within your first 60 days of business, when you can still file for an S corporation election to be effective as of beginning of the business. Otherwise, it's going to be effective as of January 1st of the year that you choose. And the deadline to file for S corporation election is March 15th of the following year. So basically, if you want to be effective as of January 1st, 2022, then you would have to file by March 15th, 2022, that S corp election. Mm-hmm.
So the next question I got here is, should a CPA, if you're looking for one, be familiar with Amazon and e-commerce specifically? And then what questions could you advise people to ask a CPA when they're maybe interviewing one or looking for one?
Absolutely. Yes. So absolutely, I believe that CPA, that if you are running an e-commerce business, your CPA should be familiar with e-commerce. Otherwise, you will be basically they will be training on you to learn the right way, or maybe never learn. So, what questions you would need to ask is, are you working with e-commerce clients? Are you familiar with product-based businesses? Are you familiar what reports need to be pulled from the platforms that I'm selling on, right? How would you treat the inventory that I purchase? Would you capitalize that inventory? Would I have the inventory levels that I have on hand or in my storage? Would I know those numbers, or are you writing everything off right away? So many CPAs do that actually. And yeah, so basically, also, how would you record sales from my platforms? Do you need any reports? Would you do it manually, or do you use any integration tools? Because usage of integration tools is actually saving a lot of time. It's much more streamlined, and overall brings over the data in summarized fashion. So it's much more streamlined, and hopefully your CPA is familiar with the tools that are needed to successfully bring over your numbers. If not, some CPAs would record the data manually, but again, if they do record that manually, then what reports would they need from you? So you would need to either provide them the reports that they need, or it's a little bit more tricky when it comes to manual recording those sales manually. And these days, everything is streamlined, and there are so many tools to help with streamlining this.
Yeah, I have to say that before Julia, they would just have me pull reports, and I'd pull what I thought was correct, but it's, I didn't know what I was doing. I was pulling whatever and tracking things through QuickBooks manually and by myself. But since Julia, and the most common integration things that I've seen out there is A2X integrating into QuickBooks. So if you are kind of just starting off and maybe are tech savvy and want to do everything yourself, it seems to be the number one combo for Amazon sellers is A2X with an QuickBooks integration there. Good morning, everybody, that has said in the chat there. Good morning, Sabrina and JR and Flipping Sports Guy. The next question we got here is, what would you expect me to do each year or month? So what are your expectations of your clients on what they would need to do with you?
Okay, so if we work on ongoing basis, if you are our ongoing monthly accounting client, for example, there is one set of expectations. If you're just doing taxes, that's a different set. So let me talk about the accounting part first. So if we are working on ongoing basis, we take over your books, basically. Oh, sorry, computer. Yeah, so we take over your books, and we do everything for you. If we have some questions once in a while, we don't know, we would categorize some of the transactions, we would need clarification, we would need to get that from you. But other than that, all you need to do is just show up to our meetings. We typically have them periodically, on a monthly basis, depending on how much you need. Sometimes a little less, sometimes more, but we would we would have a meeting online, and we would go over your books. We would go over your financial performance, also compare it to other relevant data, compare it to the industry standards as well, and just overall strategize to see how we can help you improve on your numbers, improve on your bottom line, what could be improved with your financials, basically, how we can help you grow based on the strategies that are available. Also answer any questions that you may have, and at the same time we would also discuss we would also do some tax monitoring for you as well on an ongoing basis, discuss any strategies, how to save money on taxes. So that comes all together when we do the accounting for you. So the advisory services would be included, and the tax monitoring as well. So that's basically for you would be much easier to just outsource this activity to us. So delegate the accounting activity to us, and come to the meeting, and we would be able to strategize with you. If you have questions, of course, we are available at any time to answer those questions. And then so that's the accounting part, right? If we only do taxes for you, let's say you're too small and you're just not ready to commit to the accounting, to the monthly accounting, or you're maybe are already familiar with accounting, so you don't need that level of detail, even though it's always valuable to have a second opinion, even if you're already accountant savvy, let's say. But if you do your accounting on your own, and you only need us to do taxes, then obviously we would need some information from you to prepare your tax return. So we would need some set of reports, depending on platform that you're selling on, or maybe multiple platforms. We would need some summary reports from you. We would also ask you for your inventory information, and if you have the profit and loss, if you have been running your books on your own, we would ask you for that as well. So for tax purposes, it's a little bit different from accounting. Yeah, my recommendation is, of course, to have us do the accounting, because that is just the most value that you can get from working with us.
We've got a question here from Robin, but first I just wanted to say, for me, when I got to the point where me trying to figure out my books on a weekly basis was taking up a huge chunk of my time, trying to figure them out, trying to keep up with the industry, especially with sales tax and all the changes we've had there, and then trying to figure out the software and how to use the software, I was spending more time, and I'm going at some point, you have to say, okay, this is not my specialty. At least for me, that's because my background is not finance. And I had to say, okay, this is the point where I'm now spending so much time that it would be cheaper to hire somebody to do this that could do it in a fifth of the time than me trying to figure it out and learn it. And that's been a huge time saver in my business. And I have the best part is I know it's being done correctly. When I was doing it myself, I had an idea that it was probably being done correctly, but I'm sure it wasn't 100% correctly. I'm sure there was things that I didn't know, or maybe, didn't capture, and all of that good stuff. And I certainly wasn't maximizing my tax savings to the best that I could. So it was time back then. So we've got a question from Robin here that asks, what software tools do you recommend? Inventory tracking specifically, secondly, accounting.
Okay, so great question. Thank you. Okay, so the inventory tracking would depend on your particular business model. So if you're doing retailer arbitrage, for example, And if you are selling on Amazon, Inventory Lab is one of the software tools that is the most popular and many people use. It has a lot of useful other useful features as well as inventory tracking. So that's one of the softwares. Alternatives to Inventory Lab would be Seller Legend, Seller Board, and a few others. So, but these are the most popular ones. Now, for accounting, the tools that we typically use is the backbone software would be the QuickBooks Online or Xero. Now, each one of these two softwares has its own advantages and disadvantages, and we typically analyze the situation on case-by-case basis to see which software, accounting software, would be most useful and most fit for your particular situation. And then as an integration tool, we typically use A2X to connect to that software, to either QuickBooks Online or Xero. And the A2X actually has integrations with your marketplaces, most popular ones at least, Amazon, Shopify, Etsy, Walmart, and eBay. These are all, those are the integrations available right now, and they keep expanding. So that is the integration part. Now, going back into inventory tracking, if you are doing, like, for example, private label and you only have a few SKUs, then A2X actually has a cost of goods sold feature that can be used to track that inventory, at least to track the cost of goods sold. As you sell the goods, it would match your cost of goods at the same time. And that's already built into A2X. But it doesn't work for everybody. When you have a lot of SKUs, the option would probably be better to go with other specific inventory tracking tools. Yeah, so it all depends on your particular situation. If you are selling on one platform or multiple platforms, your business model, the size of your business. Of course, that matters as well, because some software tools are more expensive than the others. And yeah, so typically, if you reach out to us, we will help you understand the differences and determine which software package would be fit best for you, the best fit for you. Yeah.
I also have to just say that Julia is very familiar with TaxJar as well for state taxes. She knows all of the state tax stuff, which is good because it's been really hairy for the last couple of years. I don't know. Definitely a sticky situation, and there's a lot of advice out there on how to do state taxes and should you do state taxes now that most of the platforms are collecting on, and just keeping up with those law changes has been tricky for sure. The next question I have here on my list, I only got a couple questions left, so if anybody has any questions for Julia, this is a good time. Go ahead and put them in the comments, and we can get a direct answer from a certified CPA here, which is where everybody should be getting their information. The internet's great, YouTube's great, but at the end of the day, these types of questions are best handled by CPAs. And while this is a broad Q&A, specifically if you have questions, you can book consultations usually with CPAs and get some more defined answers for your business as well. So that might be something where you're at that level where maybe you need to make a decision and you're kind of waffling between a couple. It'd be good to book a consultation with somebody. So how do you determine your rates?
Okay, so typically we customize the services to the client's needs. So we determine what needs you have, what kind of business you have, what channels you're selling on, what is your business model, how you handle your inventory, how many SKUs do you have. So we ask you a series of questions to just determine where you're at, what your goals are, And then based on that, we would determine the customized rate for you specifically. And so that's the rate. And it also, of course, depends on other services. You may be interested in accounting and taxes, so we can provide discounts here once you get on board. For ongoing clients, we always have good discounts as well. But yeah, we try to try to be competitive, but at the same time, the value that we provide, we know that it's very good. Like, because many of our clients refer their people who they know, their family and friends. So we get a lot of referrals, and that's why we know that we hopefully doing a good job and provide value. So
did you have a referral for this morning for everybody, or I can't remember if you had decided on that or not?
Was that Reseller Mom 10?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so that's the code that you can use. So if you are referred by a reseller mom here, then you can reach out to me and make sure to mention the code reseller mom 10, and we would provide you with the 10% off of any service that you that we decide for you. That's just one of the incentives to work with us.
We should have put that in the beginning.
Oh.
I forgot about that till just now.
Yeah.
I will add it to the description here. But we've got another question from Carrie. Good morning, Carrie. How are you? She asks, "Are you taking clients right now? And how fast can you get to a new client right now?"
Oh, okay. Yes, absolutely. We're always taking on new clients, and we can work with you right away. So we have our team in place, and we'll be happy to schedule a call with me, and we will discuss your situation. And I'll be happy to discuss your particular business needs. And absolutely, you can reach out anytime.
Excellent. All right, here is one that I'm sure everybody's a little worried about. What happens if you get audited?
Oh, yes. So this is a scary question. Yes. So as I mentioned before, I used to be a government auditor, so I know all about auditing, and I represent a lot of clients before the IRS to help them solve their tax issues. So if you get audited, there are several different reasons you may be getting audited. So we first of all we decide we have to determine what was the reason and what is needed from you. It's not always because they think you're a criminal or something. It's just sometimes something got flagged, and you just need to either prove your expenses, for example, or maybe file an amendment to include some income you may have omitted originally. So there are some standard procedures from IRS that can trigger an audit. So to avoid an audit, or let's say to be prepared for an audit at any time, make sure to keep your receipts. Make sure to, I would say, ideally, to have your books in order, so that when IRS reaches out, for example, you would have your profit and loss ready, you would have all the information ready to go to the IRS. But if you don't have that, what we can do is we can help you gather all the information that you need. And we will help you dispute any findings that they may have, help you reduce your debt with the IRS. If they determine that you owe something, put you on a payment plan. So it's not the end of the world, but of course, it comes from if you are proactive, you would not have that much of a trouble if you do get audited. If you have everything in order, it's just a matter of corresponding with IRS regarding this and providing the information to them. Yeah, so that's pretty much it.
So again, ask any questions in the comments here. I've got one last one on my pre-made list of questions, but I wanted to kind of talk about it first and then let you answer in a broad sense. And it's, how can you help me grow my business? So I've been with Julia since last September, I want to say, so it's just over a year. And in that year, she has helped me figure out how to write off my new car to the best of the tax world, which I didn't know there was some different ways you could do that. She has given me advice on cash flow management and scaling, both with hiring people and how to hire people and whatnot. So, how to issue a W-9, how to get them onboarded, issuing the tax information for them at the end of the year so that I can bring on contractors and do it properly. And then most recently, I'm going to be moving into a office warehouse situation in the spring. And so, just figuring out how to line my business up in that sense. How much do I need to sell to pay if I have an additional $3,000 a month in overhead? And what kind of, how does that pathway look and what's the best? And then for taxes this last year, that was kind of the real kicker and what really got my husband on board, because not only did I get a monthly meeting which told me my profit and loss and my percent of profits and how much, what the books were all looking like. All of my books are now in order and categorized correctly, which is good. And at the end of the year with tax season, she was able to write off, all sorts of good things that got me the largest tax return that I have ever seen. And, I may be spending money monthly for services, but I have saved time and I've gotten more in tax returns. So I now feel like if I were audited, I'd be, it'd be fine. And if I were to change systems or whatnot, all my books are put together in a way that is not going to be my books were kind of like a rat's nest before. It was sort of done, but kind of done. It was a combination. I started off with Excel sheets, moved into a QuickBooks, but it wasn't quite the right QuickBooks. But QuickBooks has a lot of different options, so I had just picked one. But anyhow, so in a general sense, how can you help people grow their business?
Okay, so we work closely with each client, and not only do we provide the accounting services, but also the advisory part that comes with it. So like Lucy mentioned, we get together for a meeting and we strategize. We see line by line on your profit and loss and your balance sheet where there are opportunities there. Based on my experience, because we work with only e-commerce sellers right now, so it's easy to see. Sometimes not that easy, but it's easy to see where the opportunities are, the missed opportunities are, and we are able to discuss that. And the bottom line, to improve on the profitability overall. That's also, we also look at line by line to see where that leakage is, where we can improve on the numbers, what needs to be worked on. For example, once we have the books all set up, we see like advertising, for example, it's needs to be cut down, or something needs to be changed in your campaigns. We see that based on the numbers. So we look at the financial picture overall, and look at the percentages, look at your gross profit margins. So that's basically the initial phase. And then as we learn about your business more and more, about your goals, we strategize to see how this business can grow further. What else can be done to scale your business further? Do you need to hire more people? And how much can you spend to get the rate of return that where you want to be, right? Or do you need to expand into other platforms, let's say? Or do you need to cut down on those platforms actually because they're not making you money, for example, right? So there are quite a few strategies that we go through, and that all comes together. I would say just the accounting part, but for the most part, it's accounting and advisory services combined, basically.
I 100% agree with that. And when Julia goes through your profit and loss sheet with you, it is much different. Like prior to Julia, I would just, run something in QuickBooks and look at the numbers, and I'm going, I don't know what I'm looking at. I don't know if this is good or bad or in between. And what she does is she kind of goes through and looks at them both for the actual numbers and then the percent of what the numbers are. And we go through both like the month and then the past 3 months so that we can see trending data. So I think our last meeting was a couple weeks ago, and we looked at, we haven't done October yet, but September, August, July, and we can see, okay, what's trending, in the positive, what's trending in the negative. And there's so much insight, such as, we'd go through advertising numbers, and she's like, oh, you only spend X percentage wise in advertising. That's below industry standards. Me, before that, I couldn't tell you if I was spending on advertising like too much, not enough compared to other people out there, because Amazon, a lot of people do their own books or think they're doing their own books, and everybody's pretty quiet about it. I mean, we don't really sit around and talk about how much we spend on advertising. And the way Amazon has advertising is a little, I don't know, it's a complicated beast to say the least. But she could go through and say, on labor, your labor percentage is good, but my storage fees are on the high side, and that's what I'm to be working on right now. Is my eyesore is storage fees. So when you look at your books and she looks at your books, you may not be seeing things that her eyes can see when you look at all of those numbers as a big picture and whatnot. So wanted to bring that up because that was huge. Never in my past has anybody ever looked at my books and said, this part's good, this part's not good, and had the knowledge to be able to say that. And in my past jobs, I would work with the finance department, which was usually one person, maybe two. I'd work with them all the time, and we usually had like labor costs, and they could only tell me if my labor costs were good or bad, or, my overall supply costs were good or bad. But overall, it wasn't as personable because it was just whatever department I was running. And so when I got into the e-commerce, there's a lot of moving pieces, and how you track them correctly and where you put that line item and when you put that line item is very difficult to somebody who doesn't understand. It's not that I don't understand, who's not familiar with where to put them, such as, I have inventory back here, that maybe I bought last month and I'm going to get listed this month, and then it might get sold next month. And where does that go on your sheets for recording purposes? And how do you do it? So Amazon is just a very complicated business model compared to like a brick and mortar store. So wanted to bring that up. But does anybody have any other questions? If not, we're gonna look at her website again really quick and make sure everybody knows where to go. So it is allunitedcpa.com. I'm gonna go ahead and put that in the comments down here below. Let's see here. Schedule that down. So we've got testimonials. She's got all the services here. So if you want to take a look at different services, resources, I want to click on your Amazon just to see what it looks like. I'm curious. Yeah, talking about the ruling of the Wayfair case. Oh boy. Yeah, that was last year, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was a few years ago. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
For those that are not familiar with the Wayfair case, that's what changed sales tax, and letting Amazon before did not collect sales tax, and they said that was the seller's responsibility. And then the Wayfair case came out, and now they do have to. And same with, I think just about everybody's on board. eBay's on board. I know Shopify's on board. Amazon. I don't know if Etsy and Poshmark and Mercari are. Are they all on board now too?
Yeah, Shopify is not. Shopify
Okay.
actually, no. Shopify you need to collect and remit on your own. So
Oh,
that's one of the still lagging issues that they need to resolve. Yeah, for sure.
nice, nice. All
Mhm.
right. Well, if nobody has any other questions, did you have anything else you wanted to say out there?
Just wanted to, I guess I can say, if you are interested in working with us, if you want to know, get your financials in order, and want to see what overall you need for your e-commerce business to be more successful, and how you can save money on taxes, please feel free to reach out. You can reach out on the website, you can send an email, or send me a full Facebook message. For example, I'm also on LinkedIn, so I'm very responsive, and I'm very friendly. So I understand everybody has different, issues, and at different stage in their business. So I would listen to you, and I would try to help you with initial suggestions that for your particular business, and then we'll discuss how we can work together. I'll be happy to help.
I do have to say that she is very friendly and probably the only way that I would have stayed with anybody, because my last two CPAs, it was I would go in and I would talk to them and they kind of looked at me like I was an elephant or something. They were like, "What are you doing? You're what? You're selling on Amazon? Wait, what state is it selling in? And then where is it going?" And they didn't, they clearly, I got the feeling every time that they didn't want to sit there and talk to me. They didn't want to deal with this. It was too much for them. It wasn't worth their time. And a lot of times they would pass me off to their lackeys, for better lack of a better term. But they're people that they just hired to do database stuff, and I wouldn't get their attention, and I wouldn't be able to. I'd email, and I'd be lucky if I got a response within a week. Um, and a lot of times the response would be that they needed a lot more information on what I was trying to do and what I needed to do to better understand. And I'm like, well, if I knew all that, then I wouldn't need to be asking you the questions that I have. Um, but Julia has been very responsive and, very attentive. And that is huge, especially in the Amazon world, because, things change all the time. And, you need somebody that's not going to take 2 weeks to get back to you. We've got a question here from Im. Does an EIN have to file a separate tax return?
So it depends on your business structure. If your EIN is for a single member LLC, for example, or you have an EIN as a sole proprietor, then you would file that tax return with your personal tax return. So you would file a separate form, Schedule C, on your personal tax return. But if your EIN is for a corporation, let's say, or for a structure where you're elected to be an S corporation, or you're a partnership, or a multi-member LLC, which is considered to be a partnership, then you would have to file a separate tax return. So it depends on your business structure. That's basically, we would need a little bit more information to answer exactly. Mhm.
Sounds good. All right. Well, thank you so much, Julia, for coming on this morning. I know we had talked about doing it a couple of times, and I'm so glad we got to fit that in here. If you are wanting to sign up with Julia, don't forget Reseller Mom 10, and you can get 10% off. And I encourage everybody, especially if you are having a lot of tax questions, to book a consultation. If it's not with Julia, then somebody else that is familiar with e-commerce specifically, so that you can get your business set up and running good at the beginning. Because I sort of didn't, and I ran it kind of on my own for 4 or 5 years, and I feel a lot better. I sleep better at night now that everything is put together correctly, and being recorded correctly as well. Getting your systems in place to keep track of your receipts and all the files, etc. is definitely something that adds peace of mind to my world. So thank you everybody for joining us in the chat. Poke Card, ZM, Carrie, Robin, Lucas, JR, and Sabrina, thank you for joining us today. And if you have any questions, if you're watching this on the replay, go ahead and leave your questions down below, and we will try to get back to you as best we can. All right, everybody.
Thank you for having me. Bye.